It actually happened because I bought the Submariner from the ID. I was actually removed from the list while I was buying it. So from here there are two possibilities. They either suspected that I'm going to sell this watch the next day for profit, which wasn't the case, or because I paid with someone else's credit card. Awkward. Now, the story started on the day before the purchase. I was called. Mr. Marinetti, we want to offer you the chance to purchase the exclusive Rolex Submariner No Date. Are you interested? And in my mind I said, nah, I find the Submariner a terrible cliche and I'm enjoying my Explorer 2, but I still need to make the purchase so I can advance on the Rolex list. And then an idea struck me. Why not confirm my name on the list as a buyer and offer it to a friend of mine because he anyway wanted this model. And obviously I called this friend of mine, he was overexcited, he said I'll buy it, I want it. I explained him the rule that I want to purchase the watch on my name to climb on the ladder and the watch is yours on the retail price. So I scheduled with Rolex the next day purchase. But the following problem occurred. When my friend arrived, instead of bringing me cash to put it on my card, he came with his credit card saying, I don't think there might be a problem. So that was the first mistake that I did. Foolishly, I thought it would work to pay with someone else's card. I went there, they showed me the watch, they sized it and then the lady asked, are you paying with card? And I said yes. And then when the lady wanted to pass the card through the machine, she asked, is this your credit card? And I said, no. Is there a problem? Awkward silence, my friend was next to me looking at the walls. And then the answer from the lady came up. Yes, there is a problem since you were on the list and scheduled to purchase it. You are using someone else's credit card and as a result, the owner of the card will be on the list as a purchaser. And I said, are you kidding me? I had no time to withdraw the money and my friend borrowed me some money to buy it. I should remain on the list with this purchase. After all, this watch is for myself. And the answer was, it's Rolex's policy. And we will try not to downgrade your spot from the list or ban you. But your friend, the owner of the card, will get on the list with this occasion. So again, awkward moments, I paid it, I took it, they assured me that everything is fine, that they understand the situation, and then 2 weeks later, I received another call. Mr. Marinetti, good evening. We want to offer you the desired Rolex Sea Dweller Deep Sea on a gradient blue. Are you interested? And knowing what happened last time, this time I asked, can I have a few days to think about it? And then the lady said, sadly no. However, if you change your mind, make sure that you purchase it and you pay with your own card, not like the last time, so that you can remain on the Rolex list. Hearing that, I said, thank you, I will pass it this time, knowing what happened last time, and since then no other call occurred. So the way I perceived this call, I felt like this was my last chance to remain and confirm my list positioning knowing what happened with the sub. But because I denied this purchase, for the same reason empty wallet, they removed me from the list for good. Now you are probably curious to know why is Rolex putting the card owner on the list. Well, it's pretty simple, because of the grey market scare and because things are getting out of control, because of those persons that have access to buy sports Rolex models, selling them afterwards for profit the next day. Rolex decided to track the watches, also the buyers. They associate the payments with the names and geolocation, precisely an approximate location where the purchaser lives. For example, when I purchased my Rolex Explorer 2, I bought it with my own card that was on my name. And then if my Explorer 2 was spotted in Vienna at another owner in the following week, after being purchased in Bucharest as an example, they would have surely banned me instantly because they had the data, they knew the owner, the payment, also the approximate location of the owner. So keep in mind, if you want to buy a Rolex to get on the list, to climb the ladder and to be called earlier, make sure you pay your Rolex with your own card with your own name on it. Period. Otherwise the owner of the card will be on the list and that is not helpful on the long term, isn't it? So yes, kind of a foolish thing that I did. It is some sort of a game where I lose anyway because I cannot afford to play at this level. But to answer the question why I insist to be on the Rolex list, well, among my close friends, watch enthusiasts, I am the only one who has some sort of a relationship with the local AD. I was the only one getting called. And as you know, as a result, YouTube with Rolex works like bread and butter. As I mentioned in the video, 5 shocking reasons why the Rolex Submariner is the most depressing watch all time. The link is on the top right corner. Now, tied up to that video, and since I have the 41mm sub in my possession, let's take a look at some subtle details that are not explained in other Rolex sub videos. Firstly, the new sub is very beautiful, has a specific appeal, especially with the crown on the dial. However, I personally do not consider the no date a genuine sub. I think a Rolex as a definition needs to have the Cyclops. In my view, this is a characteristic of the Rolex icon. And again, when I'm looking at it, I find it like a common watch. When I know how much hype is around it and how many videos and bloggers and Instagram photos are with this sub, my first emotional reaction is to deny it, because there is nothing there except for a good looking watch. And sadly, having all this information and this emotional baggage in my head, I think I will never end up enjoying a Rolex Submariner, and that is the main reason why I never wanted it. However, if we analyze it as a regular objective timepiece, I have to admit the way the Submariner sits on the wrist feels amazing. It's not heavy, the bracelet is comfortable, also the construction and the height of it makes the watch to stay buried on the wrist. It does not hang and has that perfect balance between size and weight that is forcing me to declare it probably the most comfortable diver I've ever worn. And in terms of Rolex craftsmanship, this is a quality that I have to respect. The bad aesthetic thing, however, I consider it the bracelet. They are offering now 21mm between the lugs, where the taper is no longer that visible, increasing the size with 2mm. And you will say not a big deal, but in reality the change is massive. You will feel now that the clasp is now the watch and the watch is the clasp. Visually, I find the proportion unbalanced. Also, the clasp is very long because of the adjustable slide lock system, and the bracelet, instead of being curved hugging the wrist, leaves the bracelet on a vertical position because it meets the extremely long clasp. And visually, compared to the earlier sub with maxi lugs, except for the thinner lugs and the increased clasp, which I find it noticeable, and if you put them side by side you can't tell which one is which, being only 1mm in difference. And as for how it wears, yes, the 41mm sub wears like a 39 or a 40mm watch, where side by side we can spot that the Rolex Explorer 2, even though it is a 42mm in diameter, being only 1mm difference between them, it wears bigger at 43, even 44mm. It's happening because of the wider dial and because of the tall lug to lug distance, also the farther end links of the bracelet. However, the advantage of the Explorer 2 is that even we have a common lug distance of 21mm, the taper of the bracelet is dramatic, lowering to 16mm towards the clasp. Also, price-wise, they are very similar. The Explorer 2 and the Sub No Date are priced around 7,700 euros. The Explorer has the GMT complication, Date and Cyclops, where the Sub has a simplified movement but has a ceramic bezel, also a cool diver's extension. And I guess that makes them pretty even from the cost perspective. Now, dial-wise, a major difference between the pre-2021 model to the actual ones, both the Explorer 2 and the Sub have different black tones. The new ones have a deep black dial, where the previous versions dark grey dials, and that is pretty clear, we can spot it in this side by side. So they still do not use anti-reflective crystals, but this time the deep black tone is making the markers way more visible and everything seemed to be clearer. So guys, that was it for today, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing for future updates, and until next time, be brave but stay safe.